Let's start with Meghan McCain. I wasn't going to play this, but apparently Meghan McCain's husband, Ben Domenech, was very upset about it. We won't get to him for a moment.
I just want to say,
and I think it was his idea to get upset about it, but it's unclear. We should run that through Google to see if he didn't plagiarize that sentiment, but we will check on that in a moment.
I just want to say it's odd because my read is that, and we'll get to him later, that she doesn't love him. That's just my editorial. So it's just odd.
Weird.
If you have my view of the world, it's very strange that he would do that.
So
Or
here is
cuckish.
Meghan McCain on Seth Meyers' program, and she's not used to people. Well, I guess she is on her show. You know, she speaks to a wide variety of people. But here she is on Seth Meyers, and Seth Meyers is asking her about her comments about Ilhan Omar. Meghan McCain still apparently cannot read because keeps getting these tweets wrong of Ilhan Omar's. I don't know why that is.
Maybe they're so upsetting to her that she can't even read them straight.
Yes.
She's also not very bright, to be fair to her.
Well, all right, that's fair.
Legacy admission.
She's obviously now stated she needs to be more careful with her language. Don't you think other people who talk about her need to be a little bit more thoughtful as well? Or do you stand by those comments of tying her to this, her rhetoric to the synagogue shooting?
I don't think I tied her to it in particular. I think that I'm calling out what I see as anti-Semitic language, and when you're talking about
But even after, you called it out
hypnotic-
after she'd apologized for it. I do want to establish the timeline.
I don't. I think that Democrats are hedging on this, and I think it's very dangerous. And I think Chuck Schumer and I are in alignment about Israel's stance in geopolitical politics. I
Pause
think
it for 1 second. You know what's super weird about this is that he doesn't bring it up in terms of politics, right? Like, but she makes it immediately partisan. And then she says, "But I am aligned with the Democrat." Like it's
Don't
so
use
muddled.
me as your token Jew. Even I thought that was tasteless.
The Democrats are hedging, but I'm aligned with the leading
The
Democrat.
Democrats are hedging,
with
and it's not
with
about
the
politics.
leader of the Democrats. in
It's
the
not
Senate.
about politics. However, Chuck Schumer agrees.
I don't. I think that Democrats are hedging on this, and I think it's very dangerous. And I think Chuck Schumer and I are in alignment about Israel's stance in geopolitical politics. I think it's of the utmost importance, and I think she is bringing her party to the extremism on this. And I think we have to look to Europe and what's happening over there, and that they're, you know, in the British politics, anti-Semitism is very common, and I see it happening over there, and I worry about it happening over here. I stand by every single thing I said, and if that makes me unpopular in this room or in front of you, so be it.
Well, I don't. See, that's a weird thing that you take the position of trying to be unpopular. Here I am trying to, find the common ground on this, because I do think I think we could both agree.
Were you bothered by her language about 9/11?
I thought it was taken out of context, and I think if you watch that whole
Would you
speech,
give President Trump the same leverage if he had said the same thing?
well, I would say that Donald Trump is certainly in no position to criticize her language on 9/11 based on the things that he said about 9/11, right?
But would you give? I just think you have to give people the same credence, and I think.
Pause
Well,
it.
I would.
Now, let's just examine this theory that you need to give people the same credence. There's no difference between people or context. So, in other words, just all the criticism of Donald Trump is just simply out of context. So if I was Seth Meyers, I would say, well, I mean, does that mean that, like, when Donald Trump says, like, your dad, he doesn't think your dad was a war hero? Like, that's the same? Like, you're just like, if you've ever forgiven anyone for any comment, it's the same thing? I mean, obviously, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you have a different view of geopolitical politics.
But would you give? I just think you have to give people the same credence, and I think.
Well,
she's giving a lot
let me
of
make
passes.
the clarification between Donald Trump and Ilhan Omar is one of them has apologized and said they're going to try to do better and they're going to be educated by people who know about this. That's what she said. And I think she, it's an interesting thing when we have two Muslim women for the first time, they do have a different perspective on things. And I think when we talk about the idea of, like, let's all try to meet in the middle on things, we have to listen to other people's perspective. And
Oh, I agree. I work on The View with Joy
Yeah,
Behar
yeah,
every
yeah.
day. I listen to other perspectives all
is
day
there a
long.
way for people to
Pause it.
talk?
I'm actually talking to a woman of Italian descent every day on television.
Every single day, there's a co-host who's Italian. She's actually really annoying. My dad would hate her. He did hate her. It's totally unfair. I actually have to talk to her. My father, John McCain, he was in the military. His name was John McCain. And I think he did a lot for this country. I have to talk to her. And she said every day. She says that poor people should be vaccinated with some taxes from my mom's ninth house. So I listened to that, and I think if you want to give that credence, you have to do that even if we have different geopolitical politics.
I agree. I work on The View with Joy Behar every day. I listen to other perspectives all day
Is there a
long.
way for people to talk about differences in Israeli policy without getting framed as anti-Semitic language?
Yeah, I just think you can't talk about Jews hypnotizing the world.
Pause it for 1 second. Guess who did not talk about Jews hypnotizing the world? Ilhan Omar. She talked about Israel, the nation, hypnotizing people in terms of being above critique. And we're literally seeing what she meant by that.
I think we see one of the hypnotized people on
Exactly.
that couch.
But Israel, but speaking as a Jew who is a supporter of Israel in a very generic sense, having been to Israel on multiple occasions, Israel and Jews are not synonymous and not the same thing.
And that is in and of itself anti-Semitic to say that they are.
Well, but you don't understand the geopolitical.
Yeah, that's
I'm not
those are
gonna give
different
you deference for
geopolitical
that.
politics. But if you're going to give Sam credence, I think you have to give them the same leverage.
Friends of Joseph Lieberman's daughters of friends of Joseph Lieberman are also Jews.
Yeah.
Is there a way for people to talk about differences in Israeli policy without getting framed as anti-Semitic language?
Yeah, I just think you can't talk about Jews hypnotizing the world, talking about all about the Benjamins.
You do keep bringing up the 2 tweets that she's apologized for, and I think that's a little unfair to her, especially because we've established.
Are you her publicist?
What?
Are you her press person?
No, I'm just someone who cares about the fact that there's someone out there who is in a minority, who has had death threats against her, and I think that we should all use the same language that you're asking her to be careful about her language, and I would ask everybody else to be careful about theirs.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm not sure what would make you happy coming out of my mouth right now? I'm genuinely curious.
I'm perfectly happy with everything that's coming out of
Okay.
my mouth, and I like that we spent this time together.
Okay, you
Yeah.
seem a little. I mean, I think my opinions are
Seem a
very
little-
strong, and I think sometimes because
That is
I'm
coming
on-
across. I do want you to know that.
Oh my God.
You
She
got
is
it,
so
Seth Meyers.
He's
just
talking
handled
to
that
her
so
like
Her
he
entitlement
is
levels
a
are
kindergarten teacher, and she still can't handle it.
It is. That was
her
awesome.
entitlement levels are like, I mean, she is the walking case for the estate tax.
Now, the thing I enjoyed about that is Seth Meyers was doing it all with a smile, and I think came off as not being too emotionally invested in it. I get the sense that things were a little bit different at the Meghan McCain home because when she got home or got off the set, there may have been something else expressed that would.
I feel bad for her car driver.
And this is how apparently the Meghan McCain household, her husband, Ben Dominic. Now, listen, before we cut to this, don't cut to what he's writing here. I just want to say, supposedly this was written by Ben Dominic. We have not checked to see if someone else wrote this, and he has just reprinted it without permission. So we're just going to assume that he actually authored this quote. He says, on Twitter, I see that Seth Meyers, the untalented piece of shit, who only has his job because he regularly gargled Lorne Michaels' balls, went after my wife tonight with his idiotic anti-Semitic bullshit.
Yep.
So now apparently, I suspect Seth Meyers might be Jewish. So Ben Dominic is saying that he attacked Meghan McCain with anti-Semitism. The Jew used that special brand of anti-Semitism on the non-Jew. And it's sort of hard to imagine. What does he say after this? Is that the only tweet? Does he have like another one after that that's connected to it?
What does gargling
he, like-
Lorne Michaels' balls have to do with
first
inciting
of all,
against Ilhan Omar?
I got news for you.
I don't get it.
Lorne Michaels, also Jewish. And here's a guy who's going and gargling Lorne Michaels' balls, still called anti-Semitic just for
Tropes.
criticizing.
Yeah, and I got news for you, Ben. I don't think your wife loves you.
Wow. Well, apparently Domenech sort of apologized, but then doubled down at the same time. He wrote in a statement to Mediaite that Seth Meyers is trash. I believe this steadfastly and have for years. He only has his job because of sucking up to the right people. he is an untalented hack. And he apologized for rage tweeting. But then he fired one more final shot and said, I don't like him. I think he's a hack.
Wait, I love how. Wait. You, in the process of trying to like white knight for Meghan McCain, somehow used like any conversation about somebody not having a job in the entertainment industry on merit is definitely not the thing to talk about.
I will say this. Okay.
In the process of defending Meghan McCain,
I've been told that Seth Meyers is not Jewish.
his paternal grandfather
His paternal
is Jewish.
grandfather's
Right.
Jewish, but apparently
It doesn't matter. Like, he answered Seth Meyers' question very well, I think, when he was like, oh, can we have a conversation about this without throwing around crazy accusations of anti-Semitism?
No, we can't.
We cannot.
I like that. You're unlike Meghan McCain. You don't have a legitimate reason for being on TV.
Since Dominic brought up how people get their jobs and place in society, look at who his father is. Douglas William Dominic, who was Deputy Chief of Staff of the United States Department of Interior, Senior Advisor to Secretary of Interior, and George W. Bush administration appointee. Also, he's recently in controversy here. On April 23rd, 2019, the Washington Post reported that Dominic was one of 6 officials being investigated for ethics violations in the Interior Department's Office of Inspector General. So
Imagine that.
Might be a lot of stress going on at the
And
Dominic House.
what job does little Ben have?
Plagiarist for different conservative outlets and Face the Nation recurring guest.
You guy gets
Of course.
on Face
Of
the
course.
Nation.
Of course. He's facing nation.
That guy gets on Face the Nation.
Oh yeah, baby.
Jesus Christ.
What's it take?
And Meghan McCain can't even handle like 3 minutes of a nice late night comic, like politely asking her to try to not get Ilhan Omar assassinated.
What are you, a publicist?
What are you, a publicist?
All right.
Oh, yeah. I should stop lying about her. My dad was John McCain, asshole.